Hello, I'm Rabbi Orlofsky, and welcome to the Rabbi Orlofsky Show, another edition. Whether you're watching on Torah Anytime, or wherever you watch or listen to podcasts, this is another edition of the No, this isn't another edition. This is the anniversary show. Na 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 na. That's right. We're celebrating a full year, and it's really more than a year because this is actually episode 62. This has been going on forever. This is a lifetime, over 30 hours of close to Torah content. And look how much we've gained over the years. My Rabbi Orlofsky mug and all the nifty new equipment that we've gotten and the sponsorships. We're working on putting together a year in review that will be available online from my website and to subscribers. And just, you can't, I was going through it. I just couldn't, I got through half the shows. I had so much material already. Just snippets of some of the highlights. But how do you pick highlights from a show like this? Well, this week's sponsor is the publisher of Heather Dean's new memoir, Searching for Heather Dean, about Heather Dean, who is the producer and host of At Home in Jerusalem, the weekly podcast on Aish.com. I have appeared on this show a number of times. Needless to say, those shows are already classics. I'm sticking to the text. Many of you have probably heard my interviews with her on her podcast, and if you didn't, what can I tell you? Just missing out on more just brilliance. That's one of the reasons I love speaking in England, because, you know, in America they say that was very nice, and in England they go, that was brilliant. They also mean it was very nice, but you walk away thinking, well, yes, that was brilliant. Along with other Jewish stars who she interviews about a variety of topics about the Jewish home and family on a weekly basis. Heather has recently published her memoir about her extraordinary career before she began broadcasting for Aish when she was a Manhattan-based broadcaster. Heather used to interview A-list celebrities, I would argue she still does, for such international networks as MTV, E! That's the name of the station, if you're not familiar with it, E! Yeah, sort of like if you remember the Jewish music star Yehuda! It's a similar concept. Entertainment television and Associated Press radio network. And then one day, she walked away from her glamorous career in order to live a meaningful Torah-centered life in Israel with her family. I can relate. You can read all about her incredible journey by ordering a copy of Searching for Heather Dean directly at Amazon at bit.ly/Heather-Dean. You can remember all that. We're going to put it up on the screen. And if you like what you read, remember to give the book a great review on Amazon. Heather also shares with groups her behind-the-scenes experiences from the dazzling world of reporting about celebrities and her surprising decision to walk away from it to live a life centered on authentic Jewish values. And Heather Dean can be contacted through her website, Heather Dean Productions, where you can also order copies of Searching for Heather Dean or invite her to speak in your community. Now it says or, but it really is, you could do both. You could order a book and have her come and speak. And that's one word, HeatherDeanProductions.com. If you ever listen to her podcast, she does all of the announcements so incredibly professionally, not like me at all. Thanks, Heather Dean, for sponsoring this show. And I actually have a copy of the book that was given to me by Heather Dean herself, who comes to my Mesilas Yesharim Shir in Har Nof for ladies on Sundays at 11:30 a.m. Jerusalem time. Feel free to come and attend. The commute from America is a little difficult, but you know, trust me, it's worth the trip from anywhere. So this is the book. Go out and order it and read the fascinating story of a fascinating individual who changed their lives. And I feel like that's so appropriate for our anniversary show, because isn't that what this podcast is all about? Changing lives. Trying to make our experience as Torah Jews richer and deeper and more positive. And we started a year ago, Parshas Noach. I'm coming to you actually from my home in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem. I was just in a little corner of my room. And since then, we have moved to this tremendous set. Some of the signs, not all the signs, but some of the signs that have graced our background over the time. And what can I tell you? Those of you who have been with us for this exciting journey, and I know there are people who have been watching from the first podcast, and even not people from the first podcast, they go back. People suddenly discover this and they go back because the messages I give are timeless. The insights are brilliant. The entertainment value alone is worth the price of admission. And we've had studio audiences, and we've just so much we've been able to accomplish. And like I say, this has been my first year. We're just getting our feet wet. Feel our way. We've had some wonderful guests. I had my son Yaakov, and then another time I had my son Yaakov, and there was a third time I remember I had my son Yaakov, and Rabbi Orlofsky, Ari Goldwag. It's amazing. We're just starting. This is, we are at the cusp, and I don't know if I mentioned this. I received a letter from an English teacher who says that she uses my podcast to teach new words to her English class, because who else has the extensive vocabulary that I do? I'll tell you, Chanukh Teller, that's who. His vocabulary is vast, and certainly is even larger than my own, if you can imagine such a thing. I managed to hold my own. And so I try to introduce new words, and there's going to be a vocabulary list that'll be posted for the past year. I'm just kidding. But so that's why. So we're just beginning, on the cusp. That's how I got into this. Yeah, we're on the cusp, at the beginning of new ideas. And so it begins. Mashiv Aruch Amar Goshim. Just started saying it on Shmini Atzeres. We're not up to V'sein Tal Omata L'Bracha yet, but that's it. We're entering into the winter, the rainy season of Mirza Hashem. It's predicted here in Eretz Yisrael, Mirza Hashem, to be a rainy year. That's what we daven for. And people live in countries, live in areas that they just can't even begin to appreciate this. Well, it doesn't rain for a couple of years, and you have to be worried you're going to turn on the faucet, whether or not you have water or not. Crops dying. Terrible, terrible situation. And so, Shana Gashum, a rainy year, that's something that we pray for, that's something that we hope for. And that's where we're going. So, Mashiv Baruch Amar Gashim. The rain is going to fall. And that's a good thing. We pray for rain. Rain brings down all kinds of wonderful things. And we'll talk about it maybe on a deeper level when we start saying V'sein Tal Omata L'Bracha. And when I say we, I mean we, not necessarily everybody in Chutz La'aretz. You guys say it based on different considerations. But we in Eretz Yisrael, we have our, we go by a set date in the Gemara. But we'll talk about that more, about the rain and the water. But what it does mean is, this is the new beginning. Yeah. So Parshas Bereshis, and then Parshas Noach, those two parshios that capture the first 2,000 years of mankind's history. You understand that Lech Lecha, Abraham was 70 years old. That was already after 2,000 years. He was born on the Jewish calendar 1948. Is that significant? No. We have nothing to do with the secular years. That's just one of those cute coincidences that pop up. I've spoken about them in the past. If you make a ABC into a gematria, so A equals 1 and B equals 2 and C equals 3, you can keep going on this. So it comes out that the word God, G-O-D, equals 26 in Gematria, the same as Yud Kei Vav Kei. Means absolutely nothing, but it is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. And it's these little cute coincidences. Yeah. I didn't know that's a Hebrew word. I got a puncture in my tire. In Hebrew, we call it a puncture. And I got a puncture, and I went and I got it changed. And I start driving, and I suddenly see the tire is flat. And I walked back in, and I was very upset. And I take off the tire, and he goes, "Ata makir ta mila coincidence?" And he shows me there's a second hole, and the second nail just came in to my tire, and it's near the first one, but you can see where he plugged the first one. Coincidence, yeah. So, so the first 2,000 years. So you have to figure that the year 2000, right? Avram Avinu was 52, and that begins the 2,000 years of Torah. The Chazal say that till the year 2000 was Tohu Vohu. After 2,000 years was Torah, and the next 2,000 years were the years of Mashiach, waiting for Mashiach. And so the majority of the history of the world is taken care of in those two parshios. Understand, Parshas Lech Lecha spans 29 years. Abraham being 70 and 99 at the Bris Milah. Yeah. The rest of Sefer Bereshis, so Avraham Avinu, at the beginning of Parshas Lech Lecha, he's 70. So figure 30 years till Yitzchak is born. Yitzchak till Yaakov is born is another 60 years. So you're at 90 years. And then Yaakov dies at the end of the Sefer at 147. So all of Sefer Bereshis from Lech Lecha on spans 237 years. 2,000 years, and then the rest of that time. And from the beginning of Parshas Ve'era until the end of the entire Sefer is 40 years. That's it. Shmos, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Dvarim, all of that is 40 years. So you understand these two parshios is the majority of world history to that point. And it's the story of the nations of the world. As it says in Pirkei Avos, 10 generations from the creation of the world till the Mabul, to show you how much patience HaKadosh Baruch Hu has until the world deteriorated to the point that he felt he had no choice but to destroy it. And then 10 generations from Noach to Avraham, to show you how much patience HaKadosh Baruch Hu has until Avraham Avinu came and took the schar of everybody. Moshe Shapiro once pointed out the difference in those 10 generations. The first 10 generations, it ends in the Mabul. Noah could not save that generation. Avraham Avinu, at the end of those 10 generations, no matter how bad they were, he was able to save the entire generation. He was able to reclaim the world for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah. Elokei Hashemayim, it says in Chayesar, who took me from Or Kasdim. And says Rashi, when I left, he was only the gods of the heavens. And now he's Elokei Hashemayim v'Elokei Haaretz. I brought God down into the world. And that's the challenge. Challenge for us is to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu into the world. And so these 20 generations, Parshas Bereshis, we hear the first 10 generations. Parshas Noach, we hear the next 10 generations. And then we move to the story of the Jewish people. And when you see the Torah from an outside perspective, that's a rarity, where we're hearing the story from a non-Jew's point of view. But for the most part, we're focusing on the Jewish people and their role in the world, which has clearly been disproportionate. The contribution of the Jewish people. There's an old expression in journalism, Jews are news. Yeah, when the Jews do something, it becomes very important. Everybody focuses on it. Yeah. back in the 1980s, Iran and Iraq had a war for like 8 years. Millions of people involved. Yeah, it was page 17. Yeah. Arabs throw rocks in Israel, front page. Yeah. That's just the reality. The reality that our role is so dramatic. And that's why it's so important for us to focus on our role as the Jewish people. And so we start Bereishis Shmos. This is the history of mankind. Make no mistake about it, we are part of humanity. And at no point do we leave that. If you don't believe in Christianity, you're going to burn in hell, according to the Christians. If you don't believe in Islam, you're going to burn in hell, according to the Muslims. Which means, of course, the Muslims are going to have all the Christians go to hell, and the Christians are going to have all the Muslims go to hell. And we say the righteous of the people of the whole world can go to heaven. You don't have to be part of us. That's why there is a worldwide Noahide movement of people who have rejected Christianity, are not ready to become Jews, and want to live with the morality that the Torah has given across to the world. The brilliance of it. And they turn to us for inspiration. Yeah. I once heard Rabbi Fran say that a group of Noahidists called him up and asked him to be their posek. Yeah. I was once contacted by a group of Noahidists asking me to be their halachic decider. I told them, I can't even do it for Jews. I sure ain't going to do it for you. Because for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term smicha, smicha means literally to place upon the head. And the first smicha was given by Moshe Rabbeinu to Yehoshua, and he put his hands on his head. That's the way smicha continued until the smicha was discontinued in Talmudic times. And that gave you the authority. Today, smicha is basically a document saying that you have the right to perform religious services according to whoever happened to give you your certification. Now, the most basic level is called Rav Manig. This basically means you can use the title rabbi, which, when I was living in Los Angeles, allowed you to get a discount on your phone. And that's why I thought it was important to be a rabbi. That's Rav Manig. When I went to learn for smicha, the next level up is called Yora, because you study Yoredeya. And you learn the laws of kashrus, bas b'chalav, teruvos, malicha. Some places make you do shchita, yeah. And then you get tested on this, and to make sure that you know the laws of kashrus. When I got my smicha, I said to my Rebbe, I said, now can I paskin shilas? He thought that was so funny. He says, no, now you're qualified to ask shilas, so you won't actually waste the time of a real rabbi. Yeah, you at least know what you're talking about. You'll be able to say what's a ben yoim, what's a nat bar nat, what's these kind of things, you know. So he says, and I just wish I could do for you what my Rebbe did for me. Yeah. After we got our smicha, fancy calligraphied paper, he turned it over, wrote down a phone number, and he says, if you ever have any real shilas, just call this number. It's with Moshe Feinstein. He'll answer it for you. He says, but you want to paskin the shayla? He says, do what I did. I sat with the posek for a week, and I answered every question that came to him. I once had a Talmud Chacham call me up to ask me a shayla. I said, you calling me? He says, you have a Rabbi Orlofsky. You know what you know, and you know what you don't know, and you don't mix up the two. And I told him what I thought it was, but I was going to call a real posek and double check, and sure enough, he said everything that I said, yeah. My wife always thought my smicha was a little sketchy. So, in America, I don't know about today, but when I was growing up in America, you used to get a chicken, and inside the chicken there was a little plastic bag with the liver inside of it. And the idea is you could remove the liver and kasher it, you know. So one time my wife put the chicken in, and she didn't realize that the little liver bag was there. And when we go Friday night to serve the chicken soup, so there's a little bag with liver floating on the top. So she says, what do we do? So I said, well, I remember learning in Shulchan Aruch that a liver is 1/30 of the chicken. And mistama, you had as much water and vegetables in the pot as the chicken itself. Otherwise, it doesn't make much of a soup. So I would say, push it, you have shishim. You have 60 against it. And then, it's inside of a plastic bag. So how much could have been perlate? How much could have come out of it? She said, go ask the rabbi. Because, an unsalted liver has blood in it. You can't salt the liver. You have to grill the liver. Anyway, so I said, okay, when did I ask the rabbi? So the rabbi looks at me and he says, well, it says in Shulchan Aruch that a liver is 1/30 the size of a chicken. Probably you must have had as much water and vegetables in the pot as the chicken, otherwise it doesn't make much of a soup. Besides, it's in a plastic bag. How much of it could have come out? So, Baruch Hashem, when it comes to questions on kashrus, my smicha is a yara that I know. And everyone in my Daf Yomi shir, they know already, whenever they ask me a halachic question, I always give them the same answer. I don't know. Drop it in a pot of chicken soup and I'll tell you what to do, Kid once brought me his tefillin. He says, is this puzzle? He says, I don't know. Drop it in a pot of chicken soup. I'm something of a specialist, is that? So obviously, it wouldn't be so easy for the Noahitis every time they had a question if I would tell them drop it in a pot of chicken soup, because they're not Jews. They don't have chicken soup all the time. In a good Jewish family, there's always a pot of chicken soup. Anyway, so I'm learning how to play the harmonica. I hope you're impressed so far. Thank you. Anyway, so that's why the Noahitis, they've rejected Christianity, and I don't know if I ever told this story. I was at a encounter conference in South Africa, and there was this girl who wasn't Jewish. She was Catholic. She was at the program, and last night she comes over to me and she says, "Why don't Jews accept Jesus?" And I said, "You're Catholic, aren't you?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "Don't ask me this question. Go to church, go to mass, be a nice Catholic girl. Don't ask me this question." She says, No, I really want to know. I said, "I appreciate that. Trust me, you don't. Be a nice Catholic, enjoy it." But her two Jewish friends were with her, and they said, "We also want to know." What could I do? I said, God said, "I will never reject the Jewish people. And even if you're very bad and you're very terrible and I exile you from the land, I will never forsake you. I'll never give up on you. Even if you're in the farthest corners and in the heavens, I will bring you back to me. And you will never change this law. And if someone should come and show signs and wonders and say, go against the laws of the Torah, kill him." Now, that's a really bad thing to write if you were planning on sending your only son with a new message. You should have said, stand by for further announcements, or give an expiration date or something. But that's not what you write if that's what your goal is. So she said, "Thank you very much." And her friends told me the next morning she was up the whole night crying. She says, "The priest always told us that no Jew can answer this question." It's absolutely amazing. So when you start to examine it, when it gets into the nitty-gritty, see, Catholics have it easy because they say that's a crisis of faith. If you ask me a question I can't answer, then you're Satan and you're testing my resolve. When the Rosh Hashiva gives a pilpul shir and somebody asks him a question he can't answer, he closed all the books and this guy gets moved to the front row. Because we're searching for the truth. We're not looking to be right. I don't know if I told this story either. I haven't gone through all my podcasts. It's over 30 hours. But Usher Wade, who was a Baptist minister, converted to Judaism. And somebody asked him, he says, this guy who's in line to become the Pope, at the time was the Archbishop of France. He was really a Jewish kid in the Holocaust who they put into a Catholic orphanage, and he became a priest and moved up to become an archbishop, and he was in line to become the Pope. So he says, yeah, he's one of the people being considered. Now, he was very good because, he's really managed to try very hard to sound like a Rav. He is a Rav. But, that Southern Baptist accent is still there a little bit. You can still hear it a little bit. I only once heard him lose it. So this guy says to him, he goes, well, why doesn't somebody explain to him that he's really Jewish? And he should leave the church. And his eyes flashed. And he said, are you kidding me? This man is in line to become one of the most powerful people in the world, control the lives of billions of people and billions of dollars, and you want him to give that up for something like the truth? Do you understand what it means when this minister of a Christian church in rural Tennessee gets his entire congregation to abandon Christianity and become a Noahidist? And he speaks at some Jewish convention and says, you are the chosen people. You are supposed to be inspiring us. Are you living up to your obligations? And the Jews are like, oh, hey. If the Mashgiach yell at me, okay, you can ignore it. But this guy is sitting there screaming at me. Ay, ay, ay. What an amazing concept. Amazing concept. That the Jewish people are able to affect the world. And that's why once Parshas Lech Lecho comes along, that becomes the focus. But this week we see the challenges of the nations of the world. And Noach is the progenitor of the entire world. And his three daughter-in-laws didn't come from him, and his wife, obviously. But from all of them come everybody on the earth. They can all trace themselves back. An amazing thing. Amazing thing. The responsibility you have when you come out, you look across the world. I don't know how many people look at themselves in the context of the world. Well, what's my role here? What am I supposed to be doing? I used to have girls in seminary ask me this question all the time. What's my tafkid? I'm not a Navi. We don't have Naviim anymore. Hashiva Shavtenu Kvarishona V'Yoatzenu Kvatchila, says the Vilagayan, Yoatzenu Kvatchila. That's the prophets who used to tell each person what you're doing in this world. Why are you here? What's your specific mission to do in this world? And listen, I'm speaking from a very personal point of view. I went from job to job to job. I was offered or bullied into taking every job I ever took. And I went from position to position to position. And when I left my last job, I was just waiting for Kodesh Baruch Hu to come along and offer me my next position, and it never came. And it's disheartening because you really begin to think like, all right, well, I've maxed out my contributions in the world. I'm done. Now, I could be proud. I did a lot in my life. I packed a lot of living in. And when people would ask me, what are you doing now? And I said, living off my past reputation. Right now, I'm not doing anything. When they introduced me, they would be like, the former regional director of land, the former mashgiach, the former magid, the former. What does he do now? Nothing. Right now, he does nothing. Yeah. And so that's when I got onto the speaker's circuit and I started going around speaking, which was really just a stopgap until I got an actual job, which again never came along. So I give a daf yomi now in the morning, and I give a couple of little shiurim around. And but basically, you know, when I had my heart attack, and somebody said to me, "Kodesh Baruch Hu kept you alive for a reason," and I said, "Yes." To be a prop at my grandchildren's simchas. That's basically why I'm still here. Eventually, I'll be one of those old people, you know, in the old age home, and they'll wheel me out. My mother, Shalom, always used to say, "Why do you think when you get old you start speaking with a Yiddish accent?" I don't know. I do. Okay, you know. And they bring out, now Grandpa make the hamotzi. Very good. Bring it back to the home. And then I started this podcast. It's now 1 year. I don't know how many people are listening. I can track about 10,000, but like My producer just told me there's over 180,000 views from this past year, which in technical terms is called a lot of views. Yeah? And not as much as a cat video, but okay, it's something, you know. And the emails that I get of people who tell me how much chizuk they get from it and how much they gain from it and things like that. And I gave a shiur recently in Har Nof, and okay, less than 100 people were there. And then my podcast came out, over 10,000 people watch it. So as far as I can tell at this point, this is... I can't tell you if this is my tafkid or not. I won't really know until I get upstairs and the Kodesh Baruch Hu says to me, "No, why didn't you become a shoemaker?" I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, who knows? I know I've touched people's lives just with my recipes. Let me give you. I haven't got a recipe in a long time. Now that we're starting in the winter, I'll give you our one of our fallback Shabbos chickens. This is actually, my wife got this recipe. It's not from my mother, but it's one of our go-to recipes. You take pieces of chicken, whatever types of pieces you like. My entire family, I grew up, we all ate tops of chicken. My family, they all eat thighs. Nobody eats white meat except for me. But whatever kind of chicken you have there, you rub it all over with mayonnaise. And then you make a mixture, 1 cup of matzah meal and a 1/4 cup of onion soup mix. If you're worried that the onion soup mix isn't healthy, you should be watching a different podcast. Anyway, and you mix it all up and you sprinkle it on both sides. I guess if you're over ambitious, you can get a bag and put it in and shake it. You sprinkle it on both sides. You turn over the chicken, sprinkle it on the other side. And you bake it in the oven until it's well done. I mean, until it's cooked through. I mean, depending how you like your chicken, and it's great. It's like fried chicken. It's a go-to. We love that. The recipes, the guests. We want to have more music, I think. You know, and I play the tambourine. Most people don't even know that, but. I don't know if you ever heard the song Mr. Tambourine Man. That was originally written about me. That's not true. But anyway, it's an amazing thing. I cannot thank you enough for the fact that you take out time from your day and you watch and listen to whatever I have to say. It's something that is so incredibly meaningful to me that anybody wants to hear anything that I have to say. My parents brought me up with the clear understanding that nobody wants to hear what you have to say. When I was a kid, I would get invited out for Shabbos, somebody's house, and I'd say, I get invited out for Shabbos. My mother would say, "They don't need you, stay home." So, to be able to give the opportunity to know that, you say something and there are people who are interested in what you have to say is such an incredible opportunity. And that brings us to the beginning of the second year, which is going to be even more exciting, I hope, than the first year, because like the first year, we were just getting started. And it will give me an opportunity to repeat many of the stories and the jokes that I told the first year, because, I don't remember that much what I said. I always say you get older, the first thing to go is your memory. Second thing is... That's not important. But what can I tell you? And I'm looking forward to receiving more free gifts from people. And you never know. Mitzvah Hashem, I have some trips coming up to America and give us an opportunity maybe to meet in person. My producer, Michael, suggested that maybe we go to America and do the show live with an audience in America. Sell tickets. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, but whatever. What a wonderful thing. So thank you so much for listening and watching. If you want to find out more about the show, go to RabbiOrlofsky.com, the website that was put together for me by my producer. Or you can check my Facebook page. which was put together for me by my producer. And you could add comments, you could see upcoming events, and you could contact me directly. And if you would like to sponsor a podcast, so go to RabbiOrlofsky.com/podcast, click on the sponsor an episode button. And that's it as we begin our second year. I am David Orlofsky, and this is still the Rabbi Orlofsky Show.